Hi folks, another report on the situation here in Australia. Unfortunately, I still don't have any good news for you. The fires here are continuing to escalate, continuing to build. The water situation is continuing to deteriorate. The fires have now burnt on a front around about 6 million hectares. That's around about 15 million acres now. That's about 2.5 million acres more than what was burnt when I brought you the report about 4 days ago. So the situation is just continuing. The fires across Victoria and New South Wales are so big now, and many of the fire fronts are actually joining together. Some of the reports that we're having come through about these fires really are quite incredible, folks. Some of the stories that have been told by eyewitnesses on the ground, people that have been there fighting the fires, are next level stuff. You know, these are very, very extraordinary fires displaying some very extraordinary characteristics.
We had fireballs coming over, jumping 400 to 500 metres across the gully. These fireballs, I can send you guys photos, you can put it up on the media. Some of these fireballs were 50 metres to 500 metres across. They were just unbelievable. It didn't even burn the trees or anything. It was burning the gas on top of the trees. It was preheated, and it just took off. It was almost like white flame. People in Brisbane could watch it, and they didn't think we were going to survive on what was going on. Then it came through. We got another wave, which was a canopy fire that came through. Then the ground fire came through. It hit us 5 times. I fought it on and off for 13 hours. We have not had much support in here. Apparently there's relief centres in town with supplies. We have not seen anything. We've been cut off. People need help. The Australian public, Australia-wide, is scared. It is just ridiculous. Mr. Morris, please throw your gloves on, come down here and see me. I've got an extensive network who can help with knowledge of the bush, how the Australian environment is actually meant to run. It doesn't run on paperwork. This is a clear fact of that. The Australian bush was managed for 40,000 years by the Aboriginals. This didn't happen because they managed it properly. It doesn't take paperwork or someone sitting in an office, or they didn't even have cars or a lighter, and they managed it. If they can do it, we can do it. We've got the resources to do it. Help us out. This is not the way to manage it. The loggers 40 years ago, when they started locking up the bush and not managing it properly, they said this was going to happen, and it's happened. Okay? Don't let history repeat itself. Morris, step up, get behind us. Don't let any more people die in the future.
Fireballs from 50 to 500 metres across in white flame that are going so fast and so hot that they're not even igniting the trees, they're igniting the gas above the trees. Bizarre stuff, folks. And again, we see a farmer who's saying that this is the result of bureaucracy, but unfortunately he's not seeing the bigger picture. He's thinking it's happening because the politicians are stupid and don't know how to manage the bush. And the reality is that they do know how to manage the bush, and they have deliberately mismanaged the situation to create this firestorm that we're now seeing. and it's full on, folks. We've got reports of fire tornadoes as well. Fire tornadoes appearing in the fire that we have on Kangaroo Island in South Australia. There are many people who've been claiming that these tornadoes are the result of directed energy weapons. There was someone even who made the claim that these fire tornadoes are the result of a TR-3B flying around the flames and creating a vortex. Folks, we don't need this type of disinformation being put out there. We're facing a very, very serious situation in this country, indeed a life or death situation. And we need to be very, very clear on what we're reporting. You know, fire tornadoes do not require directed energy weapons. They do not require TR-3Bs to be flying around. All they require is very, very hot, old, dry fuel, and you'll get a very, very intense fire that can create its own weather system. I mean, we've seen this in fires here in Australia previously, so we've really got to be careful of what we're reporting, folks. You know, if there are directed energy weapons being used, well, I'm sure we'll find that out eventually. And we can look at that a little bit later in the broadcast, but we don't need to think that you require TR-3Bs and directed energy weapons to create fire vortexes. And we don't need to think we need these types of things to see situations such as melted aluminium rims in cars. I mean, these will happen from very hot fires. And fires burn quite hot depending on the fuel that's used for the fires. You know, a timber fire is not just a timber fire, folks. It depends on how old the fuel is. And that's something very important that people need to take into account. And something else with these fires is that they're burning so hot that they're doing irreparable damage to the forest floor because they're burning the soil and they're burning the humus layer in the forest floor. And this is killing all the microbes. It's killing all the stuff that makes the soil alive. So you're going to be able to go and plant seeds in this soil after these fires, and you're going to find that nothing's going to grow there, not for quite a long time. It's going to take a huge time to bring this forest back to what it should be and to see Australia ever become anything like what it once was.
The environment has taken one hell of a caning out of this, and it's all preventable. This is the tragedy of it all. It's all preventable.
You know, Brian, you were the first person who told me, and then I spoke to Vic Jerskus about it and scientist David Packham. You were the first person who said to me the intensity of these fires burns the humus content in the soil right down to the mineral layer, and you then told me that then it will rain because we have the flooding rains after the droughts, and that topsoil is washed away and floods into the creeks and clogs them up. It is absolute degradation, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's not going to change, I don't believe, until the general public say enough is enough, we want something better. And there's certainly, we've got the people with the knowledge to fix the system, but unfortunately they're not listened to by politicians. Now, the fires we face now are much more dangerous than they need to be and what they used to be. The intensity of the fires we're getting now is just enormous, and our workplace is becoming a very, very dangerous place to be. Yeah, and it all is preventable. That's the crazy thing. It's all preventable. Yeah. This fire's been building for the last 20 years. And we've been burning in New South Wales less than 1% of our bushfire-prone lands for the last 20 years. So that means every year the fuel loads just continue to build. And they continue to build until we get a disaster like this. And doesn't matter how many aeroplanes we have, how much manpower, how many trucks, we can't put these fires out. They're just beyond human capability to put out.
How long have you been fighting fires for, Brian? 52
years.
Has the situation got worse in the 52 years you've been fighting?
Yes. It definitely got worse. I mean, once upon a time, a lot of our areas that are now national parks used to be forested country, and the sawmillers had a sustainable industry, and they used to manage the bush. They used to do a lot of the hazard reduction burning, keep all the tracks open, and because they valued timber. Timber was important. Now we've closed them all, the forestry industry down virtually. We've locked up the parks. We don't let people into them. We've closed all the trails off, and our timber just gets burnt and wasted. And meanwhile, overseas, they're cutting down rainforest to supply Australia with timber. I mean, how crazy is that?
And we're destroying not just the flora, but also the fauna. And Brian, David Packham says it, Vic Jerskus says it, Roger Underwood says it from bushfirefront.org.au. The Aboriginal Australians burnt all the time, cool burns. The animals had time to get away because you didn't have the build-up of those explosive eucalyptus leaves, the logs, the branches, the bark. You didn't get those big hot fires. So for a fire, you need oxygen, you need hot weather, you need wind, and you need fuel. The one thing we can control, Brian, tell me, it's the fuel, isn't it?
Yep, and it's pretty simple to control it too. And just for all the people that are blaming climate change, if we could cool the world tomorrow, press a button and cool the world by 2 degrees, it would make virtually no difference to the outcome of these fires. What is making the difference is the fuel loads. And just to give you an example of that, if you compare the intensity of a fire in 15-year-old fuels, say, compared to 4-year-old fuels, the intensity of the fire, given the same conditions in the 15-year-old fuels, will be approximately 17 times hotter than what the fire would be in the 4-year-old fuels. So and that's why we can't control them. You know, at the rate we're doing hazard reduction burning, it will take us more than 100 years to treat the bushfire-prone lands in this state once.
Do you hear that, folks? It'll take 100 years to treat the bushfire-prone land in this country once, all due to government negligence. And the thing is, a lot of these people still believe that these fires are the result of the drought, and they believe the drought is natural. And yeah, folks, the fires may well be the result of the drought, but the drought is not natural. The drought is a direct result of government corruption.
Floodplain harvesting means where there was floodplains, they kill all the trees, level it off, and they put a big embankment to stop the water actually getting into the river. And they call that harvesting.
Oh no! No.
Government authorities, whose job it is to manage our water, are wasting millions and millions of litres of it, deliberately. On the Upper Murray River, water that could save farmers is spilling over the banks. Enough to fill 2 Sydney harbours was lost last year alone. It's a national scandal unfolding in secret. But while farmers are being sold down the river by the bureaucrats, not everyone's losing. Corporate speculators trading in water are swimming in profits. In August last year, the gates opened on dams along the Upper Murray River. They wouldn't close for 141 days. It let loose a man-made flood.
16,000 megs a day spilling through the Yarrawonga Weir in this, one of the greatest droughts we've ever seen.
It's scarcely believable, but while much of Australia was gripped by one of our worst droughts in history, the people who manage our most precious resource were wasting it in truly epic proportions. Millions of litres of water flooding a protected national forest, while a dairy industry dies in the heat.
We're in a man-made drought. Our water is flowing past us every single day and we can't touch it.
All caused by speculators and bureaucrats cutting deals to sell water to the highest bidder. And damn the consequences.
Water flows to money. To ordinary Australians, it's a tragedy. It's horrifying.
You from the media, tell the Prime Minister to go and get from Nelligan. We really enjoy doing this, head. Thank you very much. I've lost 7 houses already in Nelligan. I'm not going to lose any more, you head.
Stand down now. You don't deserve to govern. You knew this was coming. It's been coming for a few years. You've been totally ignorant of it. And now we're wearing your problems.
Tell the PM to come and meet me. Paul Parker from Nelligan. Meet you any day, pal.
People are pissed off, folks, and it's no surprise because this whole thing has been done by design. You know, these politicians have stolen our water. They pretended they can sell it to other countries, and it's all against the law. It doesn't matter what they write on paper, claiming that it's legal for them to do this. The fact is that they're full of shit. None of this is legal, folks. The Constitution says there shall be no trade on water. There shall be no trade or tariff on the responsible use of water, and there shall be no restriction on the responsible use of water. This is not responsible use of water. This is criminal, and the dams out there at Cubby Farm and these other places that are withholding this water need to be broken down immediately, and this water needs to be released to the people, irrespective of what anybody wrote on paper.
It stops the river. Yep, there. See there? Yeah. That's where they put an earth bank across it. So it stops it there, banks it up, fills up that big channel, and then goes down there.
And the scariest thing is it's completely legal.
Yeah. G'day everyone, Jeremy Buckingham here. I'm with Farmer Kate McBride. We're flying over Cubby Station in Western Queensland, and it's absolutely vast. A huge irrigation enterprise out here. In wet years they'd be growing cotton, but it is absolutely monumental in its scale. What's your reaction to it being, Kate?
Well, you hear so much about Cubby, and it is just absolutely massive. I mean, we hear how big it is, but to actually see it with your own eyes is just, it's heartbreaking to see that this water should be going down the Darling, and it's affecting the amount of floods that we get. It's filling our floodplains down where we are, and it's all for corporate mega farms like Cubby.
All the way down there. It's 75 k's. It's just enormous. See it? There's the irrigation channel down there, down there, down there, down there. All the way. Like,
it's disgusting.
Yeah, it's an inland sea. We're 3,000 feet above Cubby Station, and it's taking us 20 minutes to fly the length of it. The enterprise is so huge, it can actually harvest the water from 2 river systems, the Ballon and Colgoa. That's what it's doing. It's stopping the Murray-Darling Basin, the heart of the Murray-Darling Basin, reaching the lower Darling, and it's a real catastrophe.
We have seen a huge amount of cotton being grown already over places that we've flown. The myth that they're trying to spin, saying there's no cotton being grown up here, it is being grown. It's not right. We need embargoes to be put in place because that water needs to flow down the Darling River. I mean, Tilpa is dry, the Menindee lakes are almost empty, and the lower Darling is seeing huge fish kills. We need to put an end to this. We are in a drought. Up here is in a drought. We need to save that water for the communities and the animals and everything else that rely upon it lower down.
Well, Kate's exactly right. The cotton industry are telling everyone there's no cotton being grown. Well, we've seen it at Gundawindi. We've seen it at St George. Big cotton crops. Irrigation storage is full. We've seen it with our own eyes. The truth is the cotton is sucking the heart out of the Murray-Darling Basin and adding to the catastrophe that we're seeing all the way down to South Australia, and especially in the lower Darling and the Menindee. It's a debacle, and we've got to take responsibility for it.
They've sold this country out, folks. They've sold this country and its people down the river. They don't care who suffers as long as they get their control grid, as long as they get their high-speed rail, as long as they get their smart cities put in place, just to keep us all safe. Keep us all safe, but at what cost? You know, the damage that has been done to this country and to the wildlife of this country is absolutely unforgivable. And again, folks, the most important thing to understand about this whole situation we are facing here is that this has been done deliberately. Half a billion animals killed, folks. 500 million animals killed. Whole communities without water, the entire place in a state of mass exodus. The military has been brought in to help a lot of people in a lot of areas, but no attention has been directed towards fighting the fires by the military. All attention has been focused on relocating people. Even the Premier of New South Wales says how happy she is that people are being relocated so easily. They're not making a fuss, they're just leaving. And she states that her main focus is on saving lives. Not on fighting the fires, but on saving lives. And if you really wanted to save lives, I would suggest you never would have allowed the water harvesting and floodplain harvesting and all of the things that you've done up to this point to create the perfect firestorm that we now face. Now, I've got a lot more information and stuff that I want to bring you about these fires, and I do want to address some of the reports that are coming out regarding directed energy weapons being used. I want to look at the haves and have-nots, the do's and the don'ts, the possibilities and the impossibilities, and just weigh it all up and see what evidence we do have to suggest directed energy weapons have been used. And I want to try to put that in some sort of a concise report that people can understand clearly, but I want to keep it to a separate report. Like I said, I've got a lot of information I want to bring you on these reports, but I want to try to keep them down to about 20 minutes so that there's something accessible for people so that they get out to more people, because we need people to wake up to what's going on. But one thing we need to do, folks, is rally the people of this country to realise what's happening and to realise that this situation has been created by design. And we need to take whatever steps we need to take in order to dismiss this government and hold these criminals accountable for their actions. It doesn't matter what they've written on paper. It doesn't matter who they've sold the water to. It's just one big con, because this whole government is one big con. You know, this water selling, this water harvesting is completely unlawful. It's completely against the Constitution, and no one owns water. It doesn't matter what they write on paper. If you legislate that you have the right to own water, then you are legislating that you have the right to determine the life of others. You have the right to control the life of others, because water is the stuff of life. No one controls water, folks. Only God controls water. And anybody who thinks they can control water needs to be removed, needs to be charged with treason, and needs to be gotten out of the picture as quickly as possible. And that's what needs to happen in this country, folks. We have to rise up. Now's the time to do it. And if this doesn't cause people to want to take this country back, then I don't know what will. But all these dams out there that are holding the water back at Cubby Farms, all the floodplain harvesting, all this stuff that's going on, you need to go and break these dams down. If you live near these waters, you need to go and release these waters back into the river system. And know that the people of Australia stand by you in doing so, because this is our water. It doesn't matter if they claim it's somebody else's. They're full of shit. It's not anybody's. It belongs to the earth. It belongs to the people, irrespective of what politicians have written on paper. So people who have the ability to release this water need to release this water, and we need to shut down these cotton farms right now. It's not a question of when. It's not a question of if. It's a matter of now. It needs to be done. We can't tolerate this situation any longer, and if we do, it's going to mean the end of this country. So it's time for the people to rise up. It's time for the people to take this country back and dismiss this government, as I said, by whatever means possible. If you're someone out there who believes in the monarchy, great. Go and petition the Queen and ask her to intervene. If you're someone out there who believes in the Constitution, great. Go and get all the constitutionists and get them to stand up for our Constitution. If you're someone who doesn't believe in any of it, you simply believe in freedom, great. Unite with the people who believe in those other two causes, and let's all move together as one to dismiss and dissolve this government and replace them with people of integrity. And if you're listening to this, if you happen to be Scott Morrison, I charge you with treason. I charge every politician in this country who believes they can own water, and any politician who has ever sold water to foreign interests, I charge you all with treason. Right now, you've been charged, and the Australian people need to rally up and push this charge against you, and we need to have these people removed, and we need to have this water returned to the places that it should be in. Thanks for listening, folks. I'll bring you another report as soon as I can. I've been a little unwell, that's why it's been a little bit between these reports, so I've got to get my health back together a little bit, and I'll be able to bring you a little bit more. Thank you to all the people who send me so many kind of emails. Thank you to all the people who support me on Patreon. Thank you to all the people who are coming to see me at Acapulco in February as well. I look forward to that as well. And thank you to all the people who've supported me through all this. I will bring you another report as soon as I'm able, folks, but for now, that's it for today. I want to do one on directed energy weapons as soon as possible, just to kind of weigh this situation up and see where we're going with it, and look at what the possibilities are and what the possibilities aren't. Just put it in some sort of perspective and see what we've got to deal with, what we can prove and what we can't prove. So I think that'll be interesting as well, and I think it's an important thing to deal with. But again, thanks for listening. I'll speak to you again as soon as I'm able. In Lakesh.